And for more on those Kansas City Chiefs, let's welcome in senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones, who continues his whirlwind training camp tour in Missouri for us today. JJ, at practice today, spoke to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Give us your initial impressions.
Listen, this is a team, they've been here before, right? We're talking about the six-time defending AFC West champions. We're talking about a team that in the past 4 years has gone to the AFC title games each of those 4 years. And so if you're looking for big headlines coming out of Chiefs training camp, you're looking for a fight, you're looking for somebody to make some noise at the podium, it's not going to happen here. This is as ho-hum as they come. They know exactly what it means to be a championship team with that sort of mentality and DNA. And so Andy Reid says, hey, we're just working hard out here. We're not paying attention to what the AFC West did. Yeah, sure. Saw the headlines with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Saw the headlines with the Chargers. Happy for those guys. Happy they got better, but they're only focused on themselves. And Patrick Mahomes telling me that he's a guy, he's just working constantly on his base, on his platform, making sure that he can deliver the football from all arm slots and all arm angles, as we have seen him do for so long throughout his career, but also behind that offensive line, and just with his scrambling ability at a moment's notice that he's able to stop and know exactly what his base is going to do. So initial impressions from the Chiefs, you want to pencil them into the AFC title game? I understand why.
Obviously, the biggest offseason move for the Chiefs was the loss of Tyreek to the Dolphins. They brought in the Hyphen brothers, Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Is there any leader when it comes to that wide receiver one role at this point?
Right now, it's hard to say. Because you have a 6'4" Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I'm just going to call him MVS so I don't have to keep saying that over and over. You have MVS. Unfortunately, he's been struggling with drops out here. And today, saw him drop 2 balls. Talking with folks, some of the beat reporters out here, sort of been a theme with him. But hey, it's okay. It's training camp. They just put the pads on a couple of days ago. It's going to be all right. Meanwhile, what you have is a Juju who has looked very solid out here. And so, for me, the ones today on offense went up against the 2s on defense. So you didn't really get that great of a feeling and a vibe for it. Similarly, the ones on defense went up against the 2s on offense. But it's going to be different for Patrick Mahomes, and this team is going to have to evolve. This offense will evolve. They're excited for that challenge, and talking with Andy Reid and talking with Patrick Mahomes and others here with the Chiefs, and they're going to get bigger on the outside. You look at the guys that they've added. Of course, they have Travis Kelce there at tight end. They're also going to have Justin Watson, a guy over 6'1" who can actually probably make the team. So many pieces, and they always have the speed with Mecole Hardman. So this is going to be obviously a new look defense, an offense, a team that is not going to have that speed, so it's going to take the top off. And so that means for the Chiefs that they're probably not going to see a lot of too high safety looks like they saw in the middle part of last season. That sort of confused the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes before they got into December and they figured out how to play against that. I asked Mahomes about that and if he is looking forward to not seeing that as much. And he said, yeah, sure, whatever. But listen, I stay in the film room. He pays attention. He gets the practice reps out here, and he loves watching film to figure out and better read coverages. He's basically said where he's at from year 1 to today, night and day in terms of how he knows how to read NFL coverages. And that, if you remember where he was day 1 in year 1 in the NFL to today, if you think that he's that much better from his NFL MVP season, that is a very scary thought.
The loss of Tyreek was obviously not something that sat well with Patrick Mahomes at the time. He's put a good face on it now, saying that, they've moved on. Maybe it means a bit of regression back to the mean for the team as a whole. What are your expectations, though, for Mahomes as he enters year 6?
No, they're high. We're talking about the greatest young quarterback in NFL history, the guy who had the NFL MVP and then won the Super Bowl and then won Super Bowl MVP and was potentially a coin toss away from going to a Super Bowl the year before that. And, a bevy of injuries on the offensive line and the Super Bowl after that away from having 2 rings on. So, I have very high expectations for Patrick Mahomes because of the standard that he set for himself. And, I don't think that this team, week 1, is going to be a better football team without Tyreek Hill than with Tyreek Hill. Everyone with the Kansas City Chiefs understood, though, that was something that had to be done for the good of the Kansas City Chiefs. They couldn't just hand Tyreek Hill, as deserving as he was, that contract for the health and long-term well-being of the salary cap and where this team's finances were. So that's why they went out and got MVS, a big guy who has some speed. That's why they got Juju, a proven veteran. And then when you get those guys in Andy Reid's system, we know that Andy Reid loves taking on guys no matter where they come from. And so I very much believe in Patrick Mahomes. I asked him, I said, Pat, have you gotten a little faster this all season? And of course, he mentioned his Madden rating, said he was at an 84. He's going to be working to get that up to a 90. That's a pretty big jump, but he does look, even though he's put on some bulk since the last time I saw him in person, he does look faster.
Yeah, players going after those Madden ratings coming out in a couple of weeks. We saw Orlando Brown in the viz there from practice. The offensive line gets a big boost with him reporting. How has this unit looked and in terms of gelling to protect Mahomes this season?
Yeah, so far, so good. They got Orlando Brown back probably a little bit earlier than they were expecting. Remember, he had the franchise tag on him. They could not reach a long-term agreement, depending on who you talk to. Maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have. But he comes back on the first day of pads because he said he wanted to be here with his team and grind during training camp with his teammates. I think some folks thought maybe he waits till the end of training camp once they get back to Kansas City and away from St. Joe, Missouri. So he comes back early, and they're very happy about that. Now you have Joe Thuney sliding back to his traditional left guard role. You have Creed Humphrey, one of the best centers, not just young centers, one of the best centers in the entire NFL. You have Trey Smith at right guard, and they're figuring out the right tackle position. So far, Andrew Wiley has taken basically all the first-team reps there at right tackle. So a little bit of a new look offensive line from the Super Bowl teams of the past couple of years, but one that Patrick Mahomes is very excited about working with.
Chiefs defense in that bottom third of the league last year. What about things on the defensive side of the ball, JJ? The signing of Carlos Dunlap, obviously a big one for that unit.
Yeah, I just talked with Carlos Dunlap just a few moments ago, and he was the guy who said, listen, I have 3 real goals here, and this is why I signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. First of all, I want to get 100 career sacks. He's knocking on the door of that right now. He gets a couple more than that. He can get into the top 40 or top 50. He wasn't exactly sure. Maybe needs to go check the stat book just to figure out exactly where he goes in that echelon. He also said, I want to win a playoff game. He had been in Seattle, but he missed the heyday Seattle years. And then he said, I want to win a Super Bowl. And so you look at the teams that were interested in him, the Carolina Panthers being one of those, and you say, all right, do I want to go to a team that is maybe going to compete or maybe, on the front end of a rebuild or in that real nebulous area that no team wants to be in, but teams find themselves in? Or do I want to be with a team that has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo that has won 6 straight AFC West division titles? And so that was the easy part for Carlos Dunlap. He signed a contract that's filled with some incentives that will allow him to get the money he feels that he deserves if he gets the sacks that he believes that he's going to be able to. Today was his first day out at camp, so no real big sort of insights or conclusions one can draw from that. This defense, listen, they're probably going to want a little bit more interior defensive line help. That's most teams. Frank Clark looks really slimmed down. He took the offseason very seriously. You know what you're going to get out of Chris Jones. And at linebacker, they feel really, really good about Nick Bolton, the guy who's calling plays that they drafted last year, and Willie Gay there at linebacker.
Okay, so JJ, what about this secondary? I mean, no more Ward, no more Tyrann Mathieu. What are the expectations for that group behind Dunlap?
Yeah, they're young, but Andy Reid is excited about them. They really like Justin Reid at safety. It wasn't that they didn't like Tyrann Mathieu. That's about a team-building process where you can get Justin Reid, who's 4 or 5 years younger than Tyrann Mathieu, go ahead and lock him up to that deal, and he's a thumper. He's a very physical safety. You like that about him. So I believe that the secondary, they're going to figure things out. You got L'Jarius Sneed over there. You probably want to figure out the other corner position, but you drafted Trent McDuffie, who can slide inside, play that nickel corner role, can also be outside as well. That may be the one competition is corner 2 over here with Kansas City, but this is a team like we talked about at the start of this, Jeremy. They know what they're doing. This is, we've been to 7 training camps so far. You want competition everywhere. But if you told me that we're going to roll the football out tomorrow and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have to play a legitimate game in week 1, I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs in that game. And frankly, I'm not entirely sure I care who they're playing.
JJ, just quickly, that defense, I mean, they're going to need to be better because that schedule for the Chiefs, one of the hardest in the league, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, there's no question about it, but they've dealt with that, right? They've dealt with the AFC West. They've been the top seed in the AFC West for the past 5 seasons, right? Because they've won 6 straight, so this is going to be the 6th time that they've been going into it with that. Whenever you do the cross divisions, we're getting their best. They know that they get everybody's best shot, and time and again, they are paying off. So whatever the schedule is, it doesn't matter to me because the past several years, they've been dealing with a tough schedule, and they've been crushing it.
He is CBS Sports senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones at Chiefs Camp Forest HQ today. JJ, thanks very much. Good to see you. Great stuff as always. Take a look at that Chiefs schedule. You can see week 1 taking on the Cardinals. You saw the graphic there. I mean, they've got a lot of those games in the first part of the season against teams that were in the playoffs last year. They have one of the hardest strengths of schedule of any of the teams in the NFL. That first game at Arizona, 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. They are 3-point favorites with the total sitting at 53. That's a game you're going to be able to see on CBS.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.